We have another podcast today.
We have 2 today?
No, I mean, Corey's coming to film one.
Today?
Today.
What time?
3.
Oh. That's cool.
White backdrop.
By himself?
Yeah. He's just talking. He wants us to do his podcast now.
That's awesome. Hey, come on in.
Okay.
We'll
Literally just flip the set.
Can't wait to see you later, Corey.
Can't wait to see you. Clip that.
This is just going to be a series of you saying, clip that.
There's a bunch of statements. Clip that.
Clip that.
Yes, sir. I'm at 70% sleep. That's good. Anything above 70, I count it as a W.
I woke up this morning. I'm getting there.
You're getting there. You woke up this morning.
I woke up this morning. I'm getting there. Guys, he's getting there. He's just making
I'm trying to work on like waking up like
You got to go to sleep early.
Early.
What time do you go to bed? Let me put you on game.
Hey. Dude, he loves just sitting.
I go to bed between like 1 o'clock hard every night.
That's not good. That's definitely not good.
1 o'clock.
You should at least, I would say the next goal should be try to get it before midnight consistently. At least midnight. Minimum.
I just feel like
You need a solid 7 to 8 hours. Don't underestimate how much sleep you need.
But that's why I gotta start waking up early so I can have more time in the. Because the thing is like
You need a
Johnny, like you know what I mean. Like I wake up at like 8:30, but I would rather wake up at like.
Benny, what episode is this? 27. Episode 27 of the.
Is it 27?
Clip that. Benny, what episode is this?
Episode 27.
Episode 27 of the Real Talk Podcast. It's your host, Joey.
And Thomas.
And if you like what you're hearing, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. What's going on, TP?
27.
27.
It's crazy.
We made it to the 27 club.
Yeah. You send like a video saying like most podcasts don't make it past.
Episode 21. 20. Or episode 10. So the 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 10.
90?
90%. And out of those 10%, don't make it past episode 21. So we're the top 1 percentile of making podcasts.
Damn.
In perspective.
So we're basically out there with like Joe Rogan.
Top 1% of Rogan, you know? They're out here. We are the best podcast.
Damn, it's crazy.
You know?
What else is going on?
You know, just taking it day by day. We got some shoots today. We got some hiring.
I had a pretty big project this week too. We had a big like commercial shoot.
Big commercial, big plumbing.
Shout out Ron.
Shout out Ron. Shout out B&I.
Shout out B&I.
Yeah, 100%.
It really is.
B&I brought us this next guest.
How long has B&I been going?
Years.
The 80s?
Dude, I'm pretty sure the presidents were in B&I. That long.
All right.
All right. Who do we got on today, TP? Give it to me.
Today we have on John Mopper, co-owner and therapist at Blueprint Mental Health.
Mm-hmm.
John and his wife created an amazing team that offers outpatient counseling for children, teens, and young adults, while also offering individual, group, and family therapy and parent coaching. Mm-hmm. John helps lead his team to have a positive impact on humanity and provide extraordinary counseling in an extraordinary world.
Everybody welcome John Mopper.
Let's go.
Brother, how are you?
Let's go.
Oh, boy. Rude. All right. I'll win.
Love the fit.
Thanks, man.
What shoe? Oh, those are New Balance. Those are.
Yeah, these are New Balance.
We like those, Benny? Ben's the shoe clothing guy. We gotta just run it by him first.
Yeah, we need to get a quick text.
I feel like as I've gotten older, you know, I'm 44 years old now, I have like the clothes that I wear are this collection of all the different phases I went through since like 6th grade, you know? So some days, yeah, maybe it's a little bit more casual.
Yeah.
Some days it's just a basic black t-shirt and jeans, you know? But yeah, thanks for noticing.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Shout out Randy.
With Randy from Evolve, yeah, for
Sure,
sure.
Randy. I think we all got a little bit of Randy on us.
A little bit of Randy in us.
For sure.
That should be his new tag.
So what's going on, John? How are you?
I'm good, man. You know, I'm feeling pretty dialed in these days.
Yeah.
The practice is awesome. I enjoy going to work every day. I own the practice with my wife. I get to bring my dogs with me, you know, as you do. You know, life could be much worse for sure.
100%. So can you, for the people that are listening now, can you kind of explain, we kind of gave you like an intro, but a little bit more in depth of like what Blueprint is?
Sure. I guess the best way to do that is just a quick history of how we come to do what we do now, So I worked at a higher level of care for a while when I first was cutting my teeth and getting licensed and everything, which is what's considered an intensive outpatient program or a partial hospitalization program. So that's where kids are coming like 3 or 5 times a week. It's intensive. Met my wife there, and then always had the thought that I wanted to start an outpatient practice. And I envisioned what it was, down to like what it looked like, what it smelled like, what kind of care we're giving. And I planned on doing it. But then that plan had to start a little bit earlier because I got laid off from the place that I was working and I had to scramble. So I started in a walk-in closet. I rented a walk-in closet, which had enough room for like 2 chairs that we sat even closer than this. It was like super weird and awkward, I remember one time I had a family session in that room. And it was a dad sitting in the 3rd chair that was squeezed in there, and the chair breaks and he falls over and I'm trying to pick him up, but I can't get him up, It was a rough start, but that turned into a slightly bigger office. And then Michelle, my wife, and I merged our outpatient practices together, and we started Blueprint in 2018, and we moved into our building at 73 West End. And over that time, we started picking long-term friends, colleagues, people that we trusted to start joining our team. And little by little, we start building our team with different clinicians, with different specialists, until now there's 13 of us, about to be 16 come this fall. And we focus on doing super, super high quality outpatient mental health counseling for children, teens, young adults, and now what we call adulting adults. So we have folks that are 40, 50, 60 years old that come in to see us as well.
Damn. Yeah. So you really built it up since day one.
Yeah. I'm passionate about my clinical work. Like, I care deeply for my clients. I have a strong connection with my clients. And at the same time, like, I'm an entrepreneur. I get excited about growing a business and marketing and media and so those two things kind of went hand in hand.
How did you first know that you wanted to get into like counseling in general?
So I love to say that I was passionate about it from day one, man. I just wanted to help people. That wasn't the case, dude. I was kind of what you would call a failure to launch case, right? So went through college, and after college, my 20s were crazy. I went from doing promotions for different nightclubs in New York. From there, I eventually landed working in the music industry, running around New York City with different bands and stuff and putting on shows. But I was barely getting paid. You know how that industry goes, man. I was working for basically free. That's just what it is, dude. It's what you got to do, right? Yeah. So then I was 30 and I had to move home with my parents. And it's at that point, I was like, dude, what the hell are you going to do? It's not cool anymore. You're getting kind of old. And at that point, my mother was a therapist. My friends were always coming to me looking for support. And I was like, let me try to go back to grad school now, So I went back to grad school after being at school for 10 years at the age of 30. And I guess lucky for me, that's where I did kind of start to become really passionate about what I do. There's a certain reward that comes, man, where your day is spent trying to impact someone's life in a positive way. You can't find that other places.
What would you say to someone that so I recently just turned 31, that didn't have their career set right at that age? Because I feel like at this age, right, everyone's getting married, everyone's having kids, and it's probably, it's hard to see your friends moving on. What would you say to that?
Part of me believes that's almost the right route to take, to kind of slow it down and take your time, But I remember, dude, being 23, 24 years old, working this shit job at a gym, right? Working the front desk. And at the time, Facebook was just getting big, right? I remember my friend being like, yo, you got to get off of MySpace, dude. Check out Facebook, and I'd be scrolling through Facebook, sitting at that front desk, exactly, watching all my friends, get their new apartments, their new cars, and get married and, feel like shit about it, And for a long time, I think I judged myself for being, not doing the things I was supposed to do. Now, fast forward to 44 years old, I look back at that time with gratitude, dude, because if I didn't go through what I went through, this wouldn't be my life right now, and I love my life right now. I wouldn't trade it with anybody. So that struggle had to happen. That adversity had to happen in order for this to be my life. It might still be fine, right? I might be some fucking accountant or something like that somewhere, buttoned up,
yeah.
but it wouldn't be this life. I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have my dogs in my life, and so I think people should slow it down a little bit, and take their time, because a lot of the people that did the right thing right off the bat, 3 years into their career, they're like, this sucks. I hate this. I hate my life. I hate my job. Or I hate my husband. I hate my wife, because they rushed into it.
Was there ever a moment when you maybe were in that first small room with those families, and that moment where it was tough, but you knew this was it, like this is what you were going to stick to?
Yeah, the tough part, I think, really happened grad school, right? Because I went back to grad school at 30. I took the train there every day to Kane, and I worked full time, and I remember, dude, like by the end of my grad school, like being so burnt out, man, and I remember I used to have to run to catch the train at like 10 o'clock, which would get me home at 11, and I'd have to be up at 5:30 the next day, And I remember being like February and running to catch this train and like missing the train and being literally on the verge of tears, being like, oh my God, am I going to get home till 12 o'clock now? I'm going to have 5 hours of sleep, At that point, that was the hardest point. I think once I got into, okay, this is what we're doing, and like, this is the plan, it felt like, almost like kind of willing it to happen, because I think, that people talk about that law of attraction. I think that I envisioned it deeply enough to the point where it felt real to me, which then took a lot of those stressors away. I felt confident going into it at the time.
Definitely.
When was that like aha moment where you were like, damn, this is catching on. This is going to be huge?
So I know exactly what you're talking about, man. So what would happen is when I first started the outpatient practice, I would be like, okay, I got 4 clients, and I was really cheap. I came in really cheap off the bat. Like, okay, I'm going to just try to get clients, right? And I'd have 4 clients, and I would do the math. I'd be like, okay, man, if I could just get 10, if 10 would get me this much, and then I could get into this office maybe, and then imagine when I have 15 clients. Wow. And then I got 15. Imagine when I have 20. Oh, imagine when I have 25 clients. And then like I caught myself and I'm like, yo, dude, hold on a second. Like take a moment. Like it's cool to have goals and to keep pushing, but there also has to be the balance of like taking an inventory in the moment that like, look what you're doing right now, bro. Like you're cool. Like you got 25 clients 5 weeks, 6 weeks ago. You'd be fucking thrilled if this were to be happening, So it was like right there, like, okay, this is actually going to happen. And then, my wife joining, just kind of clinched it. Like she has skills I don't have, man, 100%. She's like the glue that holds that practice together. I'm a lot of smoke and mirrors, I could throw some high fives around everybody, get them fired up. But Michelle is the detail oriented on top of everything.
What's that balance like working with there?
Which I hope you're listening to this right now.
She'll say the same thing. She would say the same thing. We're working on it. It's hard because it's like, there is no not at work. We're trying to set rules and limits and boundaries, because like it's a conversation around the kitchen island in the morning. It's another conversation at dinner. It's another conversation going to bed. Like work never really kind of goes away. So we're really setting these boundaries now of like, all right, look, this is going to be our time to meet each week, make a list, and let's not have all these little micro conversations. Let's just have our time that way we meet. But other than that, like, it's cool. We make it work for sure.
That's crazy. I feel like working with your significant other, you have such different chemistries, right? I feel like your wife brings such a different balance, but at the end of the day, it kind of just works, right?
So did you still have clients that were with you from the very beginning?
So, yeah, man. Yeah, dude, I have clients that I knew before I was licensed. From the place that I worked before, they were 14. Now they're 23, and it's amazing to witness the behind the scenes of someone's life through those years, Now, it wasn't maybe consistent through that whole process, there might have been times where they took some time off and then came back for a tune-up here and there. But I think we have different clients that come in, right? We have the folks that are really struggling, right? Diagnosable major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, trauma. Yeah, we do serious work there. I would say though, the majority of people in general, not even the ones necessarily seeking counseling, are a different batch. And what I'm seeing is this, and this is something I kind of theorized about during COVID, that now neuroscientists I'm seeing are like kind of like saying, yeah, this is what's happening. So COVID happened, and being a clinician during COVID was rough, man. Like it was all virtual sessions, log on, log off, log on, log off. And people were struggling, you know, these kids who were already struggling with depression, anxiety, now locked down, isolated, you know. So what did people do? They turned to their devices more, even more so than they were before, right? Whether it be gaming, COD, you know, for me it was PUBG, the TikTok. And what's happening is kids today have access to pleasure like we never had, right? And by pleasure, I mean like hits of dopamine. And dopamine is the neurotransmitter in your brain that fires when you have sex, when you do drugs, when you gamble, right? It moves us towards pleasure. So what's happening now is a lot of kids that are coming through, that level of dopamine that they get kind of artificially all day long becomes a new baseline. And now if something doesn't come with that same hit of dopamine, I can't bring myself to do this thing, right? And so I have these kids that are like, John, I know if I do my homework, I'll feel so much better, but I just can't bring myself to open the book. So you have this generations of kids that are only moving towards pleasure and away from everything that's difficult. And because of that, there's no sense of fulfillment. There's no sense of joy. That then ultimately leads to actual depression or anxiety of like, what am I doing with my life? So that's what I see the most of, man. You know, is a lot of kids that are like, they're not struggling because they're comfortable enough, right? There's food in the fridge, they got a roof over their head, everything's cool, but they're just like, I asked them, oh, how's it going? You know, dude, it's all right.
That was kind of honestly gonna be my next question of like, have you noticed a change in like maybe like the types of people coming for therapy or the mindsets like coming to therapy? Like I know like I'm 27, when I was in high school, there was no high schoolers talking about seeking therapy, right? Like that, other than just going and speaking with your counselor that was assigned to you when you were a freshman, and that was sort of it.
There's 100% a shift, you know, and I talk about this all the time actually, like with my team. It's like you have the people, like I said, that are really struggling and are here for hardcore clinical work, right? But then you also have, and which I think is okay, and I think it's great, is parents are now hiring a therapist for their kid the same way they would a personal trainer or a tutor, right? Like it's awesome for their teenager in the year 2023 to have this third-party objective person that they connect with, that's not their parents, that's not their friends, that they could come in once a week and be like, hey, this is what I got going on, and get some real authentic feedback from somebody. So there's both, right? There are a lot of kids that are just like, hey, like, you know, like, let me have someone else have another set of eyes on my kids because they don't talk to me, you know?
For someone who I know is taking in everyone's stuff, is there moments where you get overwhelmed with your own personal mental health issues?
Dude, it's it's real.
It's a professional, right? You're supposed to be on top of it, but like it's got to be hard, right?
It's, well, you're listening to negative stuff all day, you know, and sometimes really dark stuff, man. And it's something called compassion fatigue, because as a clinician, to be an effective clinician, you need to really put yourself in that person's body as them. And what is this experience like as them?
Yeah.
And then you got to dip back out of there and leave it, you know, and then go home. And, you know, so during COVID, man, I found myself, I've told this story a few times, like in like a hardcore political debate, dude, with some 22-year-old kid, you know, like, and to the point where the kid was like, John, this doesn't feel like therapy. I'm like, that's because it's not. And like,
It just got real.
yeah, seriously. And I was like, oh man, I logged off and I was like, I felt like such shit, dude. And I emailed him, I canceled the rest of my week. You know, I really just needed to take a few mental health days for myself. But I really focus, you know, self-care, man. Like I like, you know, my first session might be 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon, working with, you know, young adults, mostly and teens. But I'm up 5:30, you know, I'm trying to get to the gym every day. I'm trying to meditate. I do neurofeedback twice a week, you know. So my buddy Shane at Central Jersey Neurofeedback, basically what it is, it's pretty dope. You go in, he puts this cap on your head that has like 19 different electrodes that are hooked up to a computer. He says, sit there for 5 minutes with your eyes closed, 5 minutes with your eyes open, And those electrodes are measuring your brain waves and how fast they're moving, your alpha waves, your beta waves, theta waves, delta. Then it generates this brain map, right? Where you get this full colored 3-dimensional image that shows like where there's too much activity in your brain, where there's not enough, right? And then he writes a protocol for you. So I go in twice a week. And basically what people do is you go in and he targets one area. Okay, we're trying to raise these alpha waves or lower these, whatever, and he puts a few of those electrodes on, puts some headphones on me, and what do you want to watch on Netflix? You watch Netflix. As you're watching Netflix, these things are measuring your brain waves. When the brain waves start to move in the direction you want them to go, the volume gets louder, and there's a series of beeps in your headphones, and the screen gets brighter, right? When your brain waves start to go the other way, it gets dimmer, volume gets lower, you could barely hear it, right? What it's doing is almost like operant conditioning for your brain. It's rewarding your brain with the louder volume and the brighter screen when the brainwaves do what you want them to do, right? And it readjusts your brain, right? So mine was I had too much activity up front, and that's my ADD, impulsiveness, I can't sit still sometimes, I don't do well with downtime. I'm usually moving. And then I also had really low alpha waves, and that is what alpha waves are, what allow you to feel like relaxed and like calm and grounded, right? I blame college and after college on that, why those alpha waves aren't there anymore. But then, dude, let me tell you, I'm about 15 to 20 sessions in, and my productivity went through the roof, dude. All of a sudden now, I have a list of tasks to do. I just do one right after another. It's been unreal, So I do that, I try to take care of myself. I have hobbies, I like to cook. I'm into firearms training these days. That's my new thing, man, where I'm at the gun range running around, I've been doing that for a couple of years now.
How'd you pick that up?
It was around time of COVID, and I was looking for something new to do. And through COVID, I try to learn the keyboard. I had all different kinds of things, plumbing projects, shit like that. I'm like, I'm going to fix this myself, And then I I just started shooting at the range, but then they had these classes. And, for me, it's the idea of I'm not into hunting or anything like that personally. I'm not against it, but it's building mastery, right? Something that I knew nothing about that I pick up, and now I'm working to get better and better and better. Again, that's that sense of fulfillment when you're doing those things.
Is it hard for you to put down work at times?
Sometimes, not so much. I've done a good job of being able to flip that switch. At the same time, I think that having to flip that switch so often sometimes can then lead to turning off your emotions in general, where if anything, I find myself, I have to check myself to not get too flat, right? I also, on Fridays, I ride as an EMT, or I'm just about to get licensed as an EMT with my rescue squad. And that's something I do, just to give back to the community. It's a volunteer thing.
You're just giving back.
But it's that same thing. You see a lot of dark stuff, and we're the first people on the scene at accidents and whatnot, So, it used to be harder to separate. Now it's when I have maybe a particular client that's really struggling that I'm concerned about, that, I might wake up in the middle of the night thinking about them,
Damn, absorbing all that emotion is probably just so unreal.
It's exhausting. My dad used to make fun of my mom and I. What are you guys so tired after a day of work for? You're just sitting in a chair talking for, I'm like, dude, you don't know. I'm on for 7 hours of conversation. And my approach is not being the blank slate. Tell me how that made you feel. I believe in it being more of a volley, of a dialogue between, and I think that's more organic. And I think that hits home more with teens and young adults than being that stuffy old dude, flat.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like for me, I'm doing this all day, and it can be a great day or a bad day. But then, you have my girlfriend who's an overnight nurse and labor and delivery, and every night can be a bad night. She has the right to every night come home and just spew a bunch of negative stuff out. And in time, it was kind of having an effect on me. I'll come home from a bad day, I'd go home to her bad day. And it was how do I get to a point that she's able to express herself and I'm able to de-stress at the same time. Right. So, I can only imagine how it is for someone who listens to people's problems and issues all day long and then still has to deal with their own at the end of the day.
And then Michelle's also in the practice too, so she's also absorbing everything, and then it's also onto you.
Yeah, man. It can be. I think that by now we've learned to do a pretty good job of kind of compartmentalizing those things as best as we can. You kind of have to. If I'm going to be effective, continually.
Yeah. Things just take time. I mean, things will.
But at the same time, I'm envious of you guys, though. To be honest with you, man, like sometimes I look at like, man, it seems like they're having so much fun. It's like the boys are chilling all day, and like I know you're working hard, but it's like being around like that environment, like mental health's a little bit different. Where like I maybe in that professional role can't always be 100% my authentic self because I have to edit a little bit,
Yeah.
But it seems pretty cool. Like I always see your videos and whatnot. I'm like, man, it looks like these guys are having a good time.
I think we portray that we are having we are having a good time for the most part, but there are days where it's like shit, we're just fucking grinding it out.
Yeah, I think it's more so like the level at which we're at, the amount of people we have. Sometimes like recently, like the workflow can get really, really, it can build up, and at times you're like, I love this, right? Like, I'm just this is what I signed up right? For. But then I just like, you always have to have like a moment. Like this is what I always say. You always have to moment in the day where there's one thing that can kind of just clear out all the other bad energy that's around. So for me, it can either just be as simple as I'm alive, like I'm here doing something. Like I could be back on the lumber mill cutting up big trees and potentially hurting myself real bad, or still in the financial world, like dressing up in a suit and really faking it till I make it.
Yeah.
So with this, it's like you understand like there's gonna be parts of a job that are gonna bring a little more negative energy or stress, but the main reason you're doing this is because like this is what you chose for your love and what you want to do. So yeah, it definitely it's a lot of fun. I can't lie. Like there's what I mean. Every single day there's laughs going on.
At least one.
But yeah, at least one can be for anyone chasing what they love. Like it's not always what it's chalked up to be. Like,
hills and valleys, right? Peaks and valleys, like, yeah, dude, it's, like that's why not everyone's successful, man. Dude, because of like, again, going back to what we were just talking about, like moving towards like, it's the people I really believe that can move towards the things they don't feel like doing that are going to be the most successful, more so than the really smart person. Like if you're really, really smart, but you don't have drive and discipline, you're going to be useless, right? But if you're not that bright, but you're driven and you're disciplined, like you could still be successful. Now, if you're both, even better, But yeah, what you're talking about, dude, I hear you. It's like, it's mental health. You're talking about like mindfulness, the understanding that like I have some ability to control how I'm going to feel, right? It's not necessarily what the external situation is, or what the external stimuli is. It's how I choose to think about that. There's a space between something happening that sucks for the day and how I'm going to choose to respond to it. Like think of like when you're running late, right? Oh shit, I'm late. And some people freak out, right? And they're stuffing stuff around. They're in the car screaming at people and stuff, right? You don't have to choose to do that. It's going to be the same amount of time in the car. But one way I choose just to accept the fact, all right, I'm going to be late. I don't have to be stressed about it though. And the other way I suffer for the 20-minute ride that it is, and that's like, you have to be present enough to be able to notice that there's an opportunity to do that. Like to notice that frustration coming up and be like, wait a second, like things are actually pretty cool here.
I feel like people are really trying to focus on now, like trying to control your emotion, right? Do you have any tips on like trying to control their emotion, like either happiness or sadness or anger or frustration?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it's funny that you said happiness as well, because a lot of mental health is talking about not allowing negative emotions to dictate what your behaviors are, but positive emotions can do the same sometimes.
Too much dopamine,
right? And too much excitement, or too much like how many people are just like, oh, why do you stay with this person? Oh, I love them. I just love them. But what do you love about them? There's no answer, right? Like it's just emotionally driven, not thinking rationally. Because as we become more emotional, the less rational and reasonable we are in our thinking. That's why you have people punching holes in walls. No one thinks like, oh, I'm going to choose to punch this hole in the wall right now. They just get angry and, like Andy in The Office. But so it's like, it starts with having to be present enough, man. It's like, how do you start your day? Like if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you're scrolling through your phone and you're someplace else and shoving that information into your brain, you're already kind of behind the 8 ball, right? Like you're now living in your head. Like most people are going through life, their body's here in the present moment, but their head's wrapped around something that happened in the past, whether it be something that's 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago. That's where sadness, anger, depression comes from. Or more so these days, you see folks, body here in the moment, but I'm worrying about what might happen in the future, and that's our anxiety. So meanwhile, the present's going by, I'm not paying attention to it. So my brain takes over then. My brain says, what did John do the last 50,000 times he was in this situation? Okay, steer him towards pleasure away from pain. Dealing with negative emotions has to start with being like learning to be actually in this moment and start to listen to your own thinking. Like, okay, I feel really anxious about this test I'm about to take. Okay, well, wait a second. Let me think this through. I have an A in that class and I studied for 2 weeks. And even if I fail this, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Like, okay, maybe I don't need to worry. But what happens is people take their emotions as fact. And as soon as they feel anxious, like, oh, I'm anxious, it's going to be scary. But they don't check in to see, what am I thinking about that's actually driving this feeling to happen? And it starts with our thoughts. We have a thought first. From that thought, there's a certain feeling or emotion. That emotion then dictates what our behavior is going to be. So a lot of times the thoughts we have aren't accurate to what's actually happening in reality. Like I'll have kids that come in, they're depressed and I'm like, what's up? They're like, everyone at school hates me, right? It's just not probable. Listen to what he's saying to himself.
Yeah.
Everyone, even if he was standing on the roof of the school, tossing fucking puppies off onto the pavement in front of the entire school, there'd be some sick weirdo that's like, oh, that's kind of cool, you know? But it's not going to be everyone. Yeah. So it's being able to notice how you're talking to yourself and being able to say, wait a second, you know what? No. A lot of people at school right now don't like me, and I have a couple of friends. You know, that's at least an accurate representation of what's happening. Yeah. It's not turning it into rainbows and butterflies and stuff like that. It's just, let me accurately describe to myself what my reality is here. You know, a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, it's like really rationalizing and then just changing your perspective.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's having control over this thing as opposed to it having control over you. You know,
with wanting to help like so many people, how is it like balancing business with that? Right.
Yeah. You know, so these days, I'm scaling back how many clients I see personally, right? You know, at one point when I was really grinding, I was seeing like, it's unheard of. It's like 35-hour sessions, you know, in 1 week. I had to, you know. Now I'm closer to more like 15, let's say, you know. So I realized recently that I was like doing too much of both and not really being effective at either, as effective as I could be with either. So now I'm like kind of scaling it back with my clients. And I do a pretty good job, man, of like, once the clinician hat comes on, like I start my day, it's usually back-to-back sessions for a few hours, like I'm in it, you know, and it's a lot of, again, practicing mindfulness myself, that before every client comes in, I'll take a moment to myself and I'll be like, all right, look, this might be your 6th session today or your 15th of the week, but this is the 1 hour that this person gets with you. Like remind myself of that so that it draws me into the room and I'm fully present for that person. Because there is a lot of like dealing with, like right now we're trying to do a renovation on our building. We have to go through the planning board and all the applications and all the bullshit. So, you know, I could be stressed about that, but then have to take that moment to notice that stress and be like, all right, no, I'm leaving that there. This person needs my attention now, you know? So it used to be harder. I feel like I'm getting better at it. I don't have it down yet.
Yeah. Damn. So you really have to be present at all given time.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. So working on that too. What are some tips on like being here, you know what I mean?
I think it starts, you know, a couple of things, man. Like I said before, it starts with how you start your day, right? I try to, the first thing I do, I wake up, let the dogs out and whatnot, and make myself a coffee, and I have my little spot set up in the den where first hour of my day, I say, okay, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm going to read. And I sit and I read for an hour. So off the bat, the first thing I'm doing is like keeping myself present. I'm also kind of weird where like I got the sun lamp going too, because I try to get some like, you know, it's
supposed to be good at like the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, first 30 minutes of your day. You know, I'm also really focusing on staying hydrated. I try to exercise. So like the exercise gets a lot of that heebie-jeebies out of you, you know, like all that energy that needs to be released can be released then. I recommend for some people that are really struggling, like set a little chime on your phone every hour. right? Like at least then you know you're not going to go an hour without checking in with yourself. And maybe there's a little questionnaire that you could check in with, like, okay, how am I feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? What emotion am I feeling the most right now? Do I want to change how I'm feeling? Is there anything I can do about this? You know, am I stressing about something that's outside of my control? And then you could go and be unmindful, right, for the next hour, but at least an hour later, there's gonna be another time that reminds you to kind of check in and see where you're at, you know, because that's the part, like I want to be successful, but I also want to be happy, right? And I see a lot of really miserable, successful people out there, you know?
Yeah, I think that's like a big, like, thing to understand. It's that like you said, like you're doing what you love, but also like having a balance of like what's too much or where's the fun begin and end. Like it's tough.
Yeah.
With like, so now with like social media being what it is and how it can be like very, like for me, honestly, like being on my phone as much as I am, like I know it's not good for like my mental in the long run.
Yeah.
But what positive things have you seen from social media or like content like that it has helped people?
Sure. Let's look at COVID, right? As much as there were some consequences that came out of the amount of social media use, and I think Meta did their own study actually, you know, and so you can imagine the results are probably worse than even what they said. But I remember when they did their study, they said that the vast majority of teenage girls they interviewed reported what they define as problematic use. And how they defined that was they felt worse about themselves after engaging with the app, but they couldn't stop using the app, right?
Damn.
That stuff happened, sure. And at the same time, you know, in the modern world, we were all isolated. It did allow people to stay connected, you know, and I do think that it allows connections that normally wouldn't be there to kind of persist over time, you know, like we probably wouldn't be in touch with as many people in some way or another from high school or something like that, you know. So I think that it helped people connect. There is some positive messaging out there if you look for it, you know. But, you know, these platforms, my understanding is they're going to feed you what you click on, right? And that's why you get a lot of people living in these echo chambers where they only hear their own opinions when it comes to certain politics. Because Facebook, let's say, you know, says, okay, we see you click these few conservative posts, here's a whole bunch of shit that you agree with, and then here on the other side, here's stuff that you agree with, and no one hears the other side, you know. But there is positive stuff out there, but you have to start seeking it out. And I think you seek it out more, they start filling your what do you call it, your feed with more of that stuff then, you know. If you click on a whole bunch of like, you know, police shooting videos, like you're going to get a whole bunch more police shooting videos.
It happens quick too. Like I'll watch one video, like my feed will be filled up with one thing and then I'll watch one video, something else, and the next day my feed is completely different.
Oh yeah.
And it's crazy. It's crazy for us, the balance too, because we obviously put out a lot of content. We try to stay up with the trends. So between consuming for the business versus like trying to be out of it, like for yourself, it's hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it sounds very similar to my situation, but in your industry, right? Where like, okay, I need to, right? Because this is what I'm doing. I need to stay up on this. And at the same time, like, okay, then how much on top of that is for my own pleasure? You know, like how much is for me? How much am I doing for the business? And like just having to do it for the business and having to stare into a screen all day.
Yeah.
You know, I can imagine like you guys probably need like a serious like dopamine detox, like one day a week or something where you're like, you know, let me just not look at a screen for a day.
I've been floating.
Yeah. Floating?
Yeah.
Oh, in Bedminster?
Yeah. Shout out Ken.
I've been.
Oh yeah, that shit's crazy too. The first 15 minutes for me, I was freaking out. But now I've a few floats in and it's sick.
You want to hear something crazy? Yeah. They took a bunch of like 1980s stockbrokers, right? These guys that were like super high paced Wolf of Wall Street type folks, right? And they put them in one of those chambers. What do you call it? Desensitization.
Oh yeah, sensory deprivation.
Sensory deprivation chamber, right? And to see like what would happen. So it turned out they start hallucinating. Their brain was so used to stimuli and the amount of stimuli, it couldn't handle the lack of any stimuli. So it started creating its own. So they started hearing voices. They started seeing things that weren't there. Like, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I started tripping when I was in there.
Yeah.
For a little bit. I was like, oh shit.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
It's a little
It was like a heavy meditation. It's crazy.
They say that you need to like do it more than a few times, right?
Yeah.
Like to kind of get settled in and just be able to kind of chill while you're in there.
Yeah.
One time for me was just, I felt a little weird, like
You're just getting this water, you're trying to float a little bit. Yeah. Damn. But so we've done a few videos together, and you kill it on camera. What was like do you remember the first piece of content you put out for Blueprint, or like the first piece of video content or photo content?
Oh gosh. I'd like to do more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd like to do more. Like, and I appreciate you saying, being so kind about like killing it on camera, because I don't like having to like memorize stuff and just recite it. I'm so much better organic, just kind of like what we're doing here. I feel much more comfortable doing that, and I like how that presents better in marketing than like rehearsed like kind of advertisements, like I think especially with mental health, like I want, like when I redo our photo shoots and video, I want more candid stuff. I feel like candid stuff really translates. It translates for me at least. I like it makes you feel like you're there, and you're in it. But the first piece of content, man, I think I used to do these presentations like school assemblies. So I hired this kid that came and he shot my presentation, and it was at William Annan Middle School in Franklin, I think it was. And I had like this rowdy group of kids, man. Like it's like 1,000 kids, dude. That were, but they were in it, bro. And like it couldn't have gone better, Like you hear the kids in the background screaming during the presentation. The presentation starts with like they were all chanting "Blueprint." And so we made a digital logo that went like flash. The kids screaming "Blueprint," and so we filmed the whole presentation. I'm sorry, and we cut it up, into like little segments and like little stories and little things I would tell that had these messages and whatnot, and I put those out. I put those out there, and that's how really like we got like an anchor like into this community, is that like I would go around and offer like a lot of like free presentations for schools. And the one that I did was called "Thank You to the Bully." And the idea of the presentation was that like, bullying sucks and we need to try to prevent it. But my belief was that what we've done was overcompensate it. So now you have a bunch of kids that whenever they're in any kind of conflict, it's like, oh my God, I'm being bullied. No, there's a definition to that bullying. And so the presentation was like, okay, let's try to prevent it. At the same time, hey, maybe we should also equip these kids with the skills necessary to deal with bullying when it comes up, versus just trying to prevent it and then just keep our fingers crossed because the kids don't know how to cope, So I shot that presentation, and then we have the video that's on our homepage. Actually, the video that you guys shot is on, like when you open up, we just redid our website.
Oh yeah, I was just on there. I was watching.
Check it out.
Just did it, and so as soon as you land on that page, it's that video that we shot, and we got the aerial view of the building, and then the dogs running through. It's like, but we want to do a new one, man. Like I'm excited to put some funds aside to like, I want to do like an in-depth, like a longer video of like little interviews with our clinicians, interviews with clients, talking about like a big, like 2.5 minute video or something. And then I need a new 30-second for that website. The front end really speaks to who we are now, because we've grown so much. Like we will give our clinicians a certain amount of money every year towards continuing education, right? Because we want them to keep getting more certifieds and certifications and whatnot. We really now focusing on like, so many people are like, oh, the place looks so cool, the dogs and all that. But we're like, no, but we're doing like really serious, like awesome clinical work. We're a comprehensive team. So a lot of our marketing now is trying to like get that across to folks.
Yeah, 100%. You want to hop into rabbit hole?
Yeah, I actually had one more question.
All right.
So, say for us, like, say we go to a wedding and someone's like, oh, we need someone to like take a picture with a phone. They'll immediately come to the camera guys, like, and you almost feel like no matter what, like, God forbid someone wants a picture somewhere, like they're gonna come to you. do you ever feel like with family or friends that you can just have your time, like to where you don't have to worry about maybe people coming to you, like to have a deeper conversation? Like is there times where you're like, nah, I see what you're trying to do, like you're trying to have like a mini therapy session right here, like.
So yeah, dude, I'm laughing because I'm thinking like, so B&I, right? I think Ben Franklin might have been a founding father of B&I. I agree. And I guess maybe this is a good place to wrap because where you guys started. But yeah, dude. So B&I, just so everyone knows how it works, you know, you go to this meeting every Tuesday morning, you do your little pitch. It's all these different other professionals and business owners, one person per profession. And then outside of that meeting, you're supposed to have these one-to-one meetings, right? To get to know, like, and trust the person if you're going to refer them, right? So I would host these one-to-ones sometimes at my office. And this was supposed to be, I'm like, all right, cool, business meeting. Let's get down to business, talk about how we can help each other, you know? And I swear to God, fucking 9 times out of 10, dude, someone gets on that couch, bro, and about their childhood, and like how their kids, and like, you know, and like, look, I'm always there to listen, man. You know, I always am. And I think it's just that, you know, it shows that people have a lot of stuff on their mind, man. There's a lot of stuff that people are feeling that they're avoiding, and given the opportunity to communicate those things, I think they're eager for it, you know? But yeah, man, like, you know, my friends have always been reaching out to me, and like, you know, I think that's maybe partially why I keep a super small circle right now, man. You know, like it's usually just me and my wife. I have my 2 best buddies, you know, that one lives in Nashville, one lives in Manhattan. You know, we see each other like every 3 months or something like that, you know, but that's it, you know. I'm kind of a homebody, you know. I like kind of doing my own thing and flying under the radar if I can.
Sounds like us over here.
Yeah, basically. We try to, man. Yeah, we try to keep it small.
Rapid fire?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
You want to go first?
Yeah, we'll do it.
You go first.
Should I be intimidating right
No,
now?
it's literally just like
it's
just fooling like bullshit questions. So you said you cooked, right?
Yeah.
What's your go-to meal?
Oh, I truly believe that my blackened Cajun chicken thighs is the reason that my wife still has sex with me.
Ooh, that's a good one. Favorite place to eat in downtown Somerville?
Ooh, Kima. This is the first thing that popped up for me.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
Really
I like
good.
they do a chopped Greek salad with some grilled shrimp on there. But question for you, I know I'm sorry, it's supposed to be rapid questions, but it's something I have an issue with. Every fucking restaurant I go to, if I order like pasta with some shrimp on it or a salad with some shrimp, they always leave the tails on, bro. And I feel like, why? Now I have to get it off. You know, it's
No, I was
with
just
my
saying,
flow
like, it's
of
something that
eating
makes
my
sense.
dinner.
Yeah.
It's like mangled too.
Yeah, dude.
I feel like in their head they're like, oh, it looks more like a full shrimp.
They want to get to the extra ounces on there.
Yeah, man, but it's just I've been asking people because no one could come up with it, you know.
Favorite pair of shoes?
I'm not a shoe guy. I wear Vans, man. Vans are like, I wear the same sneakers from like when I was 16 years old.
Oh, yeah,
like
you can
most
wear
of the
one
time,
pair
it's
of Vans for them.
high top black Vans. I just got some low top white ones. I
like those. Those are really nice.
blue with Velcro. And they're cheap, man. You know, so you can get a whole bunch of them.
Top 3 music artists.
Ooh, that's a serious question, dude. That's not a rapid.
I gotta explain myself.
Time right there.
Wait, that's a whole nother podcast.
All right, explain.
Okay, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I can tell you. So, start with really quick. The first 3 cassette tapes that I owned as a 4th grader were Metallica, Ride the Lightning, Beastie Boys, License to Ill, and Run DMC, Tougher Than Leather. Okay. Since then, I've experimented with every single genre of music: house music, country music, rock. Lately, dude, my number one go-to, and last year I was in the top 0.5% of listeners on Spotify for this band. It's this band called Blue October. Okay. They're from the 90s. All right. They're from the 90s. Hate Me is their song, okay? Is their radio song, right? I wasn't a fan of them in the 90s, and I grew up grunge, Nirvana, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains. Never was a fan. But dude, this guy, the front man, Justin Furstenfeld, is a rock star, dude. And his lyrics, man, are so dialed in. And they said, he has a documentary on Prime called Get Back Up. And they interview a roadie, And the roadie says it happens every time. They finish their set, and some big burly dude comes walking out of the crowd with tears in his eye, and he says, "How does he know that? How does he know?" And I say, "How does he know what? How does he know all the things that I'm thinking and feeling that I don't tell anybody?" And that dude, like, I can't stop listening to this band right now. It's unreal. My wife is getting so annoyed. So I would say Blue October, I'm a huge fan, my wife is too, of a new artist by the name of Dermot Kennedy. Dermot Kennedy was an old Irish, he was an Irish singer-songwriter, but he makes now like pop music. He's done stuff who with the guy who produced the Kanye Jay-Z album, right? So some of it's over hip hop beats. We watched him.
Rick Rubin.
No, it wasn't. It was a different producer.
Oh, okay.
Right. What was it? Rick Rubin that produced that?
I know Rick Rubin has had like a big hand in like.
He did 99 Problems. Well,
Yeah.
He did the 2 of the 3 albums you mentioned, I think, right? He did Run DMC and
oh yeah, dude, he's a stud.
Yeah.
He's a stud. But Dermot Kennedy, dude, we watched him blow up. That now we saw him at a little theater in Brooklyn last year. And now we're going to see him May 15th. We're going to see him at Red Rocks in Colorado. And then we're seeing him in June. He's playing MSG. He's headlining MSG.
Oh, wow.
But if you get a chance, dude, he's another really good one. And then the last one, if I have to throw one more in the mix, what am I listening to? Man, any like 90s hip hop, like Nas, like older Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt. It's like, depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Like if I'm like trying to like get in that business mindset and like I want to kind of have a little bit more of that swagger, you know, like that's the music that comes on, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, one artist
One artist?
for you.
Big Sean. Big Sean.
Oh yeah, he's a big Sean guy.
Big Sean's got some lyrics.
I have one of his songs on my liked playlist. It's really dope. It's my gym playlist actually.
What about you, TV?
Right now, I listen to a lot of Tyler, the Creator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he. I mean, when I was in high school, he's more like really. It was kind of like tough to listen to some of his music. It was really like hardcore at times, but he's taking a really like artistic, like the way he films his music videos. It's based off of director Wes Anderson.
Oh.
Yeah. So from there, I was like, I think he's doing things a little bit differently that I really didn't see. So I started listening to him, and his last album, Call Me If You Get Lost, it just really spoke to me.
Dude, I have a lot of people say the same thing, man, about that. You know, he really, I think he kind of grew up and had a level of self-awareness, and then really start to kind of speak to that.
Yeah,
you know?
they like asked him, they were like, oh, like how, like, are you still just like a hip hop artist? He's like, no, I'm just an artist. Like, whatever it is, like, I'm just creating.
Benny, what about you?
It's between Chili Peppers and Dead.
Oh man,
Chili Peppers and the Grateful Dead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Show him the tattoo, Ben.
Well, I got a Jerry Bear right there, but then I got the skull on my thigh.
Take off your pants, Ben.
I was gonna say the same.
What a life, Big Sean.
What a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That song gets me kind of fired up.
Yeah, no, Big Sean's that guy.
Have you ever been to the gym with Joey?
Yes.
He's got some crazy gym swagger, bro.
Oh.
Do you ever see when he comes in, man? Like, ready to get it done. Dude.
Oh, he's mad. No, Joe doesn't care. He's in there bopping.
Oh, I don't give a fuck.
He's in his own way. He's having a great
400 milligrams of caffeine.
genuinely like a great time at the gym. Like that's why like before you came in, like he goes to the gym early in the morning, and I don't. my gym times are normally at the end of the day if I have time for it, and but I just see the way he starts his days at the gym, and I'm like, dude, this guy's just cranking out good energy from the beginning. So I've been to Lifetime with you maybe like 5 times now. The last time we went, each time I'll try to go in the ice bath for a little bit longer. It never was for a little bit longer. It was always a minute, maybe even 30 seconds. I kid you not, the last time we went, we go in and I'm talking outside like I'm doing a minute and a half today, and there's just one gentleman in there, older gentleman, and he's like, nah, I think you're gonna do a little bit more today. I was like, yeah, okay. So I get in, and he's like, just starts having a conversation with me. And before you know, it's 5 minutes in, then it's 10 minutes in.
Wow.
And at 12 minutes, I was like, all right, well, we gotta go. But I could stay in here all day, and I was like getting hyped up. I was like, what is going on with me right now? Like,
that's sick, dude.
I'm just like, I literally was like, I've never like, it was almost like one of those. I don't know if you ever seen the Polar Express, when like the homeless man on top of he's like the hobo on top of the train. He's like a ghost.
Okay.
And he basically helps like the main character like see his true potential in things.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I don't even think that guy was real. Like, I think he was just like my guardian.
He was talking to him.
Guardian angel. I like walked out, looked back, and he was gone.
It's like a Scooby-Doo episode, bro. Hey, God, where'd that guy go? What guy?
What guy? Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Well, he distracted you, right? It's like you weren't paying attention to it. It's like the classes in school where you like the teacher. That time flies by,
Yeah.
right? Versus the teacher just sits there and reads from the cards, like, you know.
Exactly.
That's dope, and like that's supposed to be like once you get to be into a certain amount of time of doing that, there's supposed to be all kinds of crazy like endorphins that get released.
Yeah.
I feel crazy afterwards.
Yeah, people, it's cult-like, dude, when it comes to those plunge pools, you know.
Dude, it's crazy.
Tony Robbins wakes up first thing in the morning. What he does is he wakes up, alarm goes off, takes his clothes off, and dives into the freezing cold water. That's how he starts his day. And what he says is it conditions my brain to not negotiate with myself. I never wake up feeling like doing that, but I do it anyway. And that's the whole start of his day, dude, of like doing something he really doesn't feel like doing, you know.
I remember first time I even heard of it's Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
No, Tony Robbins was in I think it was called like Shallow Hal with like Jack Black and the guy who played Jerry in Seinfeld. And he was just like this guy that he was in an elevator and Jack Black's character met him and like put him in this trance to where like he saw because like Hal was very shallow, so he made Hal see every person he thought was ugly for their true beauty inside, so he would see them as this gorgeous person.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I saw him, and I like looked into him a little bit after that too.
Your guy read his fucking book.
Is it good?
Yeah, he's a motivational guy.
Favorite travel destination?
Oh man, it's on between Curacao and Aruba.
What's one piece of advice you give your younger self?
Don't worry about it, dude. Don't worry.
Piece of advice you would give your older self?
Oh man, focus on the things that are good. Yeah, focus on the things that are good, and that's a constant. You know, it's easy to get caught up in the things that you're concerned about or thinking about. Like, wait a second, taking a step back. I'm like, dude, the fact that on a Thursday morning at 11 o'clock, I'm here just kicking it with you guys, talking. You know, like that's awesome. You know,
100%.
right.
And where can people find you in this camera right here?
Go to www.blueprintmentalhealth.com. So blueprintmentalhealth.com. Really great website that really explains who we are as a practice. You can schedule a free consult call right from the website.
Any quote or anything you want to leave the people with?
As you think, so shall you be.
John Mopper, everyone.
That was awesome, man.
Thanks, guys.